The place I lived before the place I'm at now, I lived there for almost 10 years. Prior to that, my parents lived there for 7. So very familiar with the place. Felt like home. Had been there for years and years and years and years. Never experienced anything like this before or after. And one night, I live alone. I go to bed. I'm laying down in my bed, and I close my door to my bedroom. I always close, so my front door is locked. Like I'm over the top with stuff like that. Like I get it from my dad. When I was little, my dad bought this contraption that like he screwed into like the floor, and it's almost like a stick that you put against the door. Mm-hmm. So like even if they break the locks off the door, you can't kick the door down. It's like almost like a support thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so he's like always had us in that mindset. Mm-hmm. Just like so, I do that at the house because it was left over from him, right? Mm-hmm. So I have the door when I go to bed. I don't know about you guys, when you take a shower, even if I'm home alone, I live whatever I take a shower, I lock my bathroom door when I take a shower because of murderers.
Oh, I do the opposite because of murderers. So I also live my life trying to avoid being murdered, and I keep the doors open so that I can hear and see everything as soon as it's possible to hear and see them. Like I want to know what's happening so I can try to figure out what to do before it gets me.
What about you're vulnerable and nude and slippery and wet? It sounds like I'm describing it, but you're in the shower, you're soaped up, and you're standing there, and like if someone comes in, you're toast.
But if I hear, like, if the door is shut, there's less of a chance of me hearing somebody making their way through my apartment.
Yeah, but
then it's too late.
Take the TV, take my flatware, whatever you want to take. I'm afraid they're gonna stab me through the curtain. You know, like I don't want any part of that. So for me, I go a little bit differently. I'm like, whatever's out there is not important as what's behind curtain number 1. So I lock it because I'm also closing my hair because I like to rinse and repeat. So I'm in there for a little bit. So I lock it. So when I go to bed, I lock my bedroom door, every night. So I lock the door. So I go to lay down. I had just laid down. I had the TV at the foot of my bed on like a little table. I'm watching TV and I'm like, I'm going to go to bed now. I'm going to like doze off a little bit. So I pick the covers up. I usually put them over me because like the TV's on and the light from the TV is bothering me. So the way I lay down is I have a pillow, right? Like I put my arm under the pillow, right? So here's my arm, here's the pillow, here's my head. And then this arm is kind of like up in the air a little bit, like almost like laying on the headboard, right? And almost immediately, like moments after like laying down, my TV was still on mute, I thought, or low. I heard someone talking and I knew it wasn't the television, but I lived upstairs from someone. So I thought it was them downstairs. It wasn't uncommon to hear. And then I heard what I thought was my door open. But again, I had just laid down. I live above somebody. My front door has a battering friggin' thing on it. I had no reason to think anything at all. So I didn't even think anything. And then I heard what I felt was like steps. And I'm hearing this, but again, I don't even care. And then I felt, and I don't know how to explain this because I have never had an experience other than this in my life, and I don't believe it. My whole family believes this stuff hardcore, and I mock them openly. And I did see a UFO one other time, but
we're gonna hear about that next.
That's different. So I have this feeling inside that someone is standing above me. That's what it felt like. I just felt, I heard something, then it felt like the door, and I felt steps, and I just felt it feels weird. It's like when you watch TV and other people talk about it, you hear these things and you're always like crock of shit. But like, I don't know how to explain it, except in that moment at that time, I kind of felt what these people kind of talk about. And then somebody grabbed something or I don't know, whatever. I felt what feels like someone doing this to my hand that was out of the covers were over my head. This was the only exposed part. And I felt this, like someone squeezing my fingers together. And I, for some reason, was very calm, but I was like, okay, so this someone's in this house. This is, you got to understand, I wasn't calm. I was freaking out, but I was very still. And you got to understand, put yourself in this position. I feel the pressure on my fingers, and I feel it initially and then get tighter and tighter, like squeezing. Like, so if you took my hand and you squeeze as hard as you could, even right now, it doesn't like crush my fingers. I feel the pressure, but it doesn't like, and that's what I was feeling. And in my
Was
head,
it warm? Like, was it? Do
I
you know the
don't remember a
temperature?
temperature. I don't. I just do remember squeezing,
Okay.
and I remember more and more pressure. And I said, okay, in my head, I go, "Am I sleeping?" And I was like, "No, I'm wide awake for sure. I know I'm awake. Like I'm breathing. I know that I'm up. I'm like looking around. So I go, that means someone's in my house. But
There's
I go,
a finger thief that has broken in.
but no one could be in my house, right? Because my
Taking all
door
precautions.
it's locked and it's 2 layers of locks, and I didn't hear anyone. And why would a thief come in my house and walk up to me and then squeeze my hand? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm like, someone broke into my house, but I don't understand. I couldn't make heads. This is all in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make heads or tails as to why, how, who, the motivation, like why they were squeezing me. Maybe to see if I was sleeping. Maybe I was about to get chopped to pieces. Maybe it was a spirit. I don't know. But I'm like, this is happening. I'm awake, and what am I going to do about it? So I hadn't even moved, and I didn't want to because I was like, whoever or whatever, what's going on?
Don't want to know.
I don't want them to know that I'm awake.
Oh, okay.
Because I think the element of surprise is the only thing that can work in my favor if I have to fight for my life. I'm thinking this. And so let them squeeze as much as they want. I'll have a dead hand. And if I'm sound asleep, they'll let go and they'll do whatever they have to do. So after a second, they were still holding my hand. It like the pressure released. And I was like, all right, this is now or never. I'm either going to be vulnerable under these covers or I have to face this. And I was like, I'm definitely awake. So I was like, I'm just going to count to 3 and I'm going to jump up as hard as I can out of my bed and be ready to fight for my life. I keep a little bat, like I'm so New York. And so I keep a little bat like under the side of my bed. So
Keep
like,
a knife.
yeah, I have it. So I was like, I'll jump up. I'll like do whatever I got to do and go for the bat. And I like took a deep breath, and I really thought that I was about to like possibly fight for my life. And I just remember screaming and ripping the covers up. And in one move, I like jumped up, and I was standing on my bed, and there was fucking no one there, and my door was closed. And I know for a fact that my hand was just squeezed as hard as it could be squeezed. So I'm like, is that a spirit? Is there one in my house right now? Like, what the fuck was that? And I got up, I turned on every single light in the whole house. And I just kind of like stayed up for a while. And then I just when I finally went back to bed, I just went to bed with like the kind of lights. It was probably almost daylight, like by that point, because I couldn't go back to sleep. But to this day, I can't explain it. I don't know what it was. I don't know why I felt or heard those things. What I was saying was maybe I fell asleep immediately and I was half asleep just for moments. And I started to dream that and I jumped back up. But the reason I know that's not true is because I did that check under the covers. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, I know I was very self-aware. I was like, I know I'm awake. I know I just laid down. I know exactly what's going on here. So I was like, I made sure that I knew that I was up before I jumped up. So like, it wasn't that. So what is it?
Could it? So in trying to debunk it, could it possibly have been, aside from the sounds and the feeling of a presence that you had, could it have been some sort of weird hand cramp that tensed up your hand and you interpreted that as the feeling of being smushed?
So I've never had one in my life other than that. And it wasn't a cramp. It was exactly how it feels. Yeah. If someone would grab your fingers and squeeze. So the pressure was very specific, right? It was it was very specific. So I don't believe in that stuff. But meanwhile, I'll be the first one to get like scared. Like I wouldn't go in like a haunted house or anything. I don't believe it, but when it's convenient. But I can't explain it. And I refuse to believe it was a spirit that walked into my house, my little apartment on Staten Island, squeezed my fingers, and then just went into the night. It doesn't make any sense.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, my firfirst thought was like, because I sleep kind of the same way with like an arm under the pillow, and I get my hands and shit fall asleep a lot of the time. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Like maybe you're just asleep enough that your hand fell asleep, and you perceive it as being squeezed. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing a self check, I don't know.
But believe me, I want to debunk it myself. Like my sister has those stories, which I look. What with the ghosts? Why is it never in the middle of the day? Why is it not someone squeeze my hand while we're on this podcast right now? Why is it always a kid from like, oh, he was wearing a black suit and a big hat from like, it looked like he was from the 1400s? Why is it never like a kid in a FUBU shirt? That's like, you know, like, why is it nothing contemporary? Why is it always when we're alone in the dark, half asleep? It's just got to be our brains. You know what I mean? But
and it could be that that's when we're most receptive to it because we're so busy all the time paying attention to a million other things. Like maybe in the moments when you're in bed or when things are quiet and dark is when they feel they have the opportunity to grab a hand, maybe.
Yeah.